This is a map of the Cheshire Canal Ring. It's 98.5 miles round and could serve Manchester as a vast water pleasure ground. But in the present state of the ring, Manchester is effectively cut off from the most attractive parts. The unusable section is only 14 3/4 miles long from Marple to Manchester. And the cause of the trouble is poor lockage at Marple and the derelict state of the locks on the Ashton canal. Let's look at the Ashton canal. Designed and engineered by Benjamin Outram, the canal was opened in 1800. It was used for more than 150 years. But the canal was not just a commercial waterway, it was an amenity. A local resident recalls the days when
many a time you could see hundreds of people on here, just walking up and down for a Sunday afternoon stroll, when it was decent to walk along. Especially going up to Daisy Nook on a Good Friday. This was the way we went. We never went on the bus or anything like that. We went along the canal.
And that's not so long ago either. For it was only in 1961 that maintenance was discontinued. The canal was never legally closed. It was left to the rubbish tippers and vandals to make sure that navigation became impossible. Today, you see the results of 7 years of apathy, neglect, and vandalism. Even in its present state, the canal is not quite useless, for it supplies millions of gallons of water per day to industry. The Guardian has this to say about the canal.
The Ashton Canal is a special situation canal. This usually means that the canal is left to deteriorate until it becomes a public nuisance.
A number of local authorities want to fill it in. But the Peak Forest Canal Society and the Inland Waterways Association want to restore it. They see the canal not only as a vital link in the Cheshire Canal Ring, but as an amenity to the locality. As a demonstration, and in order to stop the condition of the canal worsening, the plan was to remove as much rubbish as possible between Clayton Junction, along the worst section of the canal, up to Fairfield Junction. The rubbish was either to be removed or burnt. Ashton Control, the nerve centre of the operation, was at Edge Lane. Volunteers from all walks of life, coming from all parts of the country, all are prepared to give up their weekend to hard, wet, weary work. Here, they're briefed before starting work. I spoke to Graham Palmer, one of the organisers of Operation Ashton.
On the Friday, when it started to rain, we'd never seen rain coming down like it. We thought it would scare a good percentage of the volunteers away. What impressed me most, and I'm sure it impressed everybody that saw it, was the way the volunteers worked in those conditions. There was no, oh by God, it's raining, let's wait, let's stop until it stops. No, they just went straight in. The first time I saw the site was around about 11 o'clock. One more dumper had arrived, so I took the chance of getting a lift in the lorry that was delivering it down to Lock 12. I got out the lorry and I was staggered. I wondered what the hell we'd started. All I could see were hundreds of ant-like people scurrying round. Dumpers and JCBs were looming over everywhere, buzzing around like mad things. This damn great crane, as I arrived, had a lock gate suspended from its jib. It looked more like a scene of devastation than one of, what's the word, reconstruction, clearing. At that moment I thought the thing had got out of control. As you got close to the site you saw it wasn't. It was, if anything, more under control than an average working party. There was a great shortage of dumpers as they started to go out of service with punctures very fast. The reason for this I still don't know. I'm sure dumpers generally have to work under these conditions. It may be we had some with some dodgy tyres. We've got no idea of how much stuff would burn. And there were fires. Everywhere there were fires. Great big black, smouldering, filthy, glaring fires. Of the two rubbish collection sites we had in operation, the one by Lock 12, below Crabtree Lane, is by far the most impressive. It was receiving rubbish from £5 at about the same number of locks. It grew to an immense size very fast, and no matter what the 2 JCBs stationed there, loading the lorries, and the 5 lorries operating in there could do. They could not get down the size of this pile. It seemed to remain constant. Never seen so much rubbish in one spot in my life. They were changing rubbish because as they were moving it away, new stuff kept coming in. You name it, we found it. Mr. Freeman, the BWB engineer, took me to one side and said, "It's all very good," but he said, "I can't understand why you're doing it." To which I don't think I gave an answer. Didn't seem sort of much point if he couldn't figure it out for himself.
By mid-morning on Sunday, the heavy rain had almost stopped. I asked a few local people for their comments about the operation.
There was a lot of talk about making them to roadways, you know, but I think it's laughable myself. I think it would run to millions. I don't know about thousands.
I've been looking at these canals all my life, and I'm no chicken, as you well know. But this is a real shredder. You can see it's a proper ditch now.
Well, I mean, another 2 years, all these houses won't be here, will they? This time, well, say, this time 12 months, this time 2 years, there's nothing here, there'll be building on here. So myself, personally, I think you've got to start to this cleaning at the right time. I mean, I say, it's okay, all this hard work being done. If people appreciate it, you must have policemen walking up and down, which you never see. That's why you see the kids, that's why your locks are broke. I've said all along. It's needed for years now, to get the canal back to normal. But if you can get the interest, by God, you'll have the finest fishing stream, boating. I mean, I remember when canoes were going up here. I mean, it's not that long ago, is it?
One of the first things to come out on a Saturday morning was a live shell from the pound just above Edge Lane Lock. This thing sort of emerged from the mire at about 10 o'clock. And I must admit that I thought, oh by God, this is it. I'll stop the whole thing. But no one seemed over worried. Someone found a policeman and gave him the shell, and he wandered off to the police station with it under his arm. Thereafter, finding shells just seemed to be the normal way of life.
Hang on, I'll pull you up.
At lunchtime, this fairly new-looking motorbike emerged from the mud. It had to be placed on one side in case the owner wanted to claim it.
Because one of the successes of this thing was the catering arrangements. I think Ada Kemp's team, who organised the hop ash, or our meaty stew, and the catering facilities were fantastic. There's no other word for them. In the tent, the tea, the coffee and the food never seemed to run out. You never had to wait long for it. Strangely enough, the free beer didn't go down as fast as I expected.
Sunday afternoon, and the improvement in the weather brought more spectators to the site. Howard Langley, chairman of the Peak Forest Canal Society, talks with Fred Kemp. Amongst the many VIPs who visited the site during the weekend was the chairman of the Inland Waterways Association, deputy general manager of the British Waterways Board, and his area engineer. But it was a pity that no local councillors visited the site during the weekend.
I've just come on here to look for my son, tell you the truth. Oh, so I live at the back here, you know. Yeah. I didn't know it was this big though, that you was telling me about it, you know, but I didn't think it was this many people into it, you know, it's over 600. Yes. Yeah. It's from all over the country. Yeah. About 200 up from London area. Yeah. Another 100 arrived today from the Midlands. Yeah. From all over the place. I think it'll be a worthwhile job, like, you know, when it's done, but I think it's a very big job. So it's got to be done. Massive job, yes. Yeah, definitely. It's no good having a canal like this any longer. It's not doing anybody any good. No, it's a disgrace. I mean, I've lived here, 30 years at the back here, you know, and I've gradually seen it go down and down, this canal, from bad to worse, you know. So I never thought that I'd ever see this again, you know. People going into it, putting them back into order. Water lining? Yep. That's about 3-4 foot up, that. Hey? The water line's level with that coping. Bottom of that coping. I've got a 5-foot head there, And they're working up there, and it's about 9 inches deep at this side.
Well, that's good.
You've done miles better than we ever thought possible. Oh, what's wrong? Isn't very clever. If I can get that cleared to the water line, actually they're cutting themselves. I've told them to clear it to the water line. Well, the more rubble they take out, the lower the water line.
All right. Should we leave it at 4, then?
Well, give me about 4. Now, what I told, the message I left at the top was this. As soon as you've cleared off, you've got all your equipment away, send me a dumper down, I'll hook up those, put the stuff in, within a quarter of an hour I'll be finished, clear of this site.
Right.
And I'll have all the stuff back up to you.
John, will you
As long as you-
arrange the rest of those dumpers?
Yeah.
The whole bloody issue. All right?
Get all the lorries down here, I'll get all the sites sold.
We can't get all the tippers off here because they've still got the stuff on the banks. That'll have to go.
Yeah, tippers only, not dumpers. Work literally had to be stopped. Pulling out of rubbish had to be stopped. The only time we came near to mutiny when we asked them to stop. I ask you, this is incredible. But somehow we had to get rid of the stuff. And yet these dumpers, the loaders and the lorries worked non-stop until 6. And there was still enough to occupy 2 more lorries and a loader for practically 3 days afterwards. I think it was the biggest reunion of waterway types I've ever seen, even more so than a rally. I think the weekend was mostly memorable for the weather, or lack of it, and for the spirit of the volunteers. Such a spirit I don't think any of us have ever seen for a long, long time in the canal world.
In just one weekend, 2,217 tons of rubbish were removed from the canal. A fantastic success. But a Droylsden council official said he could see no improvement in the canal. Well, here are some before and after photographs. This is the long pound above Edge Lane before. And this is the same pound after. Here, the finishing touches are being made to Lock 16. The entrance to Lock 14, before Operation Ashton. And after. Rebuilding of the stone steps is still in progress. Here is the pound between Lock 13 and 14 after Operation Ashton. And this is the pound between locks 12 and 13. It's worth remembering that this was blocked by 2 wrecked cars and a multitude of other rubbish. Lock 13 at Crabtree Lane, the result of 7 years of neglect and rubbish tipping. And here, 7 years of rubbish cleared in just 2 days. The entrance to Lock 13 before and after. Lock 12, the result of 7 years of vandalism. And here, the result of just 2 days hard work. Lock 11, before and after. Operation Ashton has shown that the canal could be restored, but a number of local authorities object to restoration on the grounds that the canal is a danger to children. A bystander at the weekend had this to say.
If you get it open like this, you know, with boats running along it, then I think there'll always be someone on hand to keep the children out of danger.
This is true. A used canal is safer. But wherever there is water, the possibility of drowning exists. Local authorities should be concerned, but have they got the situation in the right perspective? Here are some figures which show the number of drownings in different types of water. Out of a total of 692 drownings, rivers and streams claimed 238 victims. Whilst there were 57 drownings in canals, the tragedy is that 42 people were drowned in the safety of the home and 30 in the swimming baths. Here are figures for the Ashton Canal within the city boundary. There have been 2 drownings in the last 5.5 years. The Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents considers that lack of supervision and unjustified reliance on fencing are 2 of the major factors in the drowning of young children. The canal is a fairly safe place compared with Ashton New Road. All children are taught road safety, but water safety is neglected. The immediate priority is not fill it in because, as we've seen, the danger of water exists everywhere. Our priority should be teaching water safety. These water safety rules could make your canal safer.
Teach your child to swim. Teach your child to know the dangers of water. Never let your child go near water alone. Never let your child play on a homemade raft. Never let your child play on ice. Patrol dangerous spots during school holidays. Do not rely too much on fencing. I can swim.
Here are the 3 alternatives for the future of the Ashton Canal. 1. Open water channel, leave it as it is. 2. Fill it in, culverting. 3. Restoration. Let's consider each possibility in turn. Open water channel or leave it as it is. Well, the Ashton Canal already is an open water channel. Its condition is not acceptable to either local authorities or residents, or to boat owners and fishermen. We should therefore rule out this possibility. What about fill it in, culverting? Well, the Ashton Canal is a water supply canal. If the channel is to be eliminated, then the necessary water must be culverted. Let's look at what happens when a canal is eliminated. This scene of desolation is at Droylsden. Once it was the Hollingwood branch of the Ashton Canal. It was not a water supply canal, so culverting was not necessary. Elimination with builders' rubble and a multitude of domestic rubbish has been going on for a number of years now. How would you like this at the bottom of your garden? The remaining section of the canal trapped between two filled-in sections. Filled with a multitude of rubbish and decaying food remains. The Huddersfield Narrow Canal at Staley Bridge, a water supply canal, partly culverted. Obviously, elimination is a possibility. But what's the cost of turning a canal into a morass or useless jungle of weeds? It's very costly. Here are some examples of culverting costs. The Rochdale Canal, length dealt with 2.5 miles, cost £430,000. Monkland Canal, 2.4 miles, £320,000. Huddersfield Narrow Canal, 400 yards, £13,675. Huddersfield Narrow Canal, 733 yards, £30,000. Hollingwood Arm, 880 yards, £42,000. An average cost of £60,000 per mile. At this rate, it would cost £405,000 to culvert the Ashton Canal. So what about restoration? Restoration is by far the best solution. A restored canal is an amenity to the district. This photograph shows the junction of the Peak Forest and Ashton Canals as it is at present. As part of the Tame Valley scheme, the Civic Trust considers the canal an important recreational facility. Here, their sketch shows what it might look like. But the Peak Forest Canal Society and the Inland Waterways Association see the canal not only as an amenity to the district, but as a vital link in the Cheshire Canal Ring. And here's the cost of restoration. Just £42,000, or an average cost of £7,000 per mile. The choice is yours. £60,000 per mile for elimination, or £7,000 per mile for restoration and recreation.